What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're making chili. This is a super simple recipe. I'll leave a description down below, detailed description of the ingredients and how it's made. It's really simple. There's not much in this. We're using chopped meat, we're using pork, bell pepper, a jalapeno pepper, and an onion, and a few spices, not many. Really simple. So on the stove, I already got my pork going. I got my peppers all in the pan with the onions, getting those all caramelized. Show you what that looks like. Then after that, we marry everything in the pan, add some crushed tomatoes, mix it all, season it, let it simmer, and you got chili. So let's get into it. Alright, so we got our peppers and our onions the way I like them. They're nice and caramelized. We're going to add our ground pork to this, and then we're going to take our chopped meat. We'll do our chopped meat next, and then we'll add our chopped meat to this mixture. So let's get the pork in here, we'll get it all mixed up, and then we'll work on the chopped meat. Alright, we're going to take our ground pork mixture and add it to the peppers and onions. There's really not that much grease involved in this pork. Usually I strain out a bunch. You'll see with the chopped meat, there'll be a bunch more. But I'm surprised, the pork is usually more fattier. I add the pork for the flavor. If you just use ground meat, it doesn't come out as good. So I like to use the pork. See, now there's not that much grease here. We're just going to take our spoon and get it all in the pan. Alright, now we'll just mix this together. Now we're going to get our chopped meat in the frying pan. We'll get that all cooked up and we'll add that to the mixture. Alright, now we got our chopped meat in the pan working. What I like to do is I like to take this tool right here. This is from Pampered Chef. This thing works awesome. What you do is you just keep smushing it and turning it, and this grounds it up nice and fine. So what we're going to do, we're going to get this all nice and crumbled like the pork, and then we'll add it to the pan. So we're going to come back in a second. Okay, with the magic of editing and TV, we're back. As you can see, this Pampered Chef tool does a fantastic job of getting that chopped meat nice and crumbled up. Don't mind the stove, guys. My stove gets cleaned down on Sundays, nice and clean. It's a mess. We cook here. So, well, at least I cook here. And I like to cook, and I also make a mess, but we do clean it up. So we're going to take this chopped meat, and for some reason this chopped meat has way more grease in it than the pork did, because it was an 85-20 mixture. So I take this nice little tool I got here, I drain off the fat and add it into the pan. So what I like to do is just tip this like this. This is what the pork should have looked like. It should have had that much fat in it, but it didn't. Either way though, it adds a lot of flavor to the dish. So again, we'll just strain off what we can and add it into the pan. Then after we get this done, we're going to add our sauce and our spices, and this thing will be almost just about done. It's a super simple chili. I used to do a more complicated version, and then one day I just simplified it and added, I think, 4 ingredients. Once we start adding the spices, you'll see. And it came out just as good, and I was like, you know what, I don't need to add all that other crap I was adding in there. So this is a super simple chili. Good for a crappy day like today, a rainy day you just feel like having chili. So we're going to get this mixed up. We'll be back in a flash to do our sauce and our spices. Alright, to interrupt this video, I forgot to give you guys a major piece of information on this video and the recipe. I'm Italian, so we use garlic and everything, so it just totally slipped my mind about mentioning the garlic. When I did the peppers and onions, I used about 3 cloves of garlic. I used a half elephant ear, which is equivalent to about 3 cloves of garlic. And then when we did the dry spices, I used 1 tablespoon of granulated garlic. So don't forget your garlic. Also, if you guys are new here to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. Also hit that bell icon to get notified when I make new content. Alright, let's get back to the video. Alright, so before we go any further, let's talk about the ingredients real quick. Now that we got everything mixed together, what I like to use, what we have around here locally in the Northeast, is Tutti-Russo. This is crushed tomatoes. Tutti-Russo is the best in my opinion. This is the only brand I use, but you can use whatever you want. You could use puree or crushed tomatoes. I like to use crushed tomatoes. And again, Tutti-Russo is the best. Then I use kosher salt. I like to use coarse kosher salt in there, so you don't have to add too much because it's bigger granules, so once it disperses and gets in there, it's just quicker that way. Coarse black pepper, like throw a little bit of that in there, not too much. The major flavor of it is obviously chili powder, so we just use chili powder. And again, I'll link all the measurements. I really don't measure things, I roughly measure them, but I'll leave it in the description what the measurements are for each ingredient. Cumin, you have to put a little bit of cumin in there. And then the underlying tone of this whole dish is this smoky paprika. This is a smoky paprika. Usually you find it at the grocery store, or if you can't, you can also order this. But this is the key ingredient that gives it that little flavor that you're not quite sure what it is. But this makes it taste really nice. So that's it. There's not a ton of ingredients. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that go into this. Now my last recipe, as I said earlier, was way complicated. I put all kinds of stuff in there. I was in the cabinet just throwing everything in there. It was good, but it was overkill and it was too much spices. This here is a pretty simple spice list. So if you just follow this simple recipe I got here, I think you guys will like it. Now my chili here, because the kids are eating it, they really don't like vegetables a lot. You can put green peppers in yours. I put green chili peppers in there. But I de-seed everything because they don't like, seeds. They really don't like vegetables. What kid does? But they will eat it. And I don't put beans in it because they won't eat the beans. But you can throw a can of beans in it, chili beans, kidney beans, whatever you want. I usually do. Then you add some shredded cheddar when it's done. Get yourself some nachos to scoop in there, and you're good to go. So let's get back to the stove, and we're going to add all these ingredients. All right, so let's add our Tutti Russo crushed tomato in there. Get my spoon here. Probably going to clean this out with water like I usually do. But let's get this mixed. This actually isn't a 1-to-1 ratio here. I kind of went a little extra on the chopped meat, but typically one big can there will do the entire batch of chili. Unless you're doing a huge batch and you just double everything and you'll use 2. But I'm going to get this mixed up. I'm going to get some water, get the rest of this out of the can. I don't like to use too much water because once this starts cooking, it's going to generate a little bit more moisture. So we're going to just get this mixed up quick. As you can see now by the color, it's much redder, but it's going to turn that chili color once we start adding our spices. So first thing we're going to add is the chili powder, and this is a 1/4 cup. So we'll fill this up. 1/4 cup of chili powder. Now the cumin, we don't use a lot of this. We're only going to use about a 1/2 teaspoon, unless you like the flavor of it. I use about a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin. Oh, let's put a little more in there. Teaspoon of cumin. Now I use a tablespoon of the smoked paprika. Tablespoon of that. And again, you guys can adjust this to how you like it. This is just what I do. Now salt and pepper, I do that to taste. So I'm just going to add a little bit of salt right now. A little splash of the black pepper, because I already put some in there when I did the chopped meat. And then we're going to get this all mixed up. Alright, hopefully you can see the color difference in it now. It's much darker. We have the fire back on low, very low. We're going to simmer this for about an hour and a half. Actually, the longer you let this stay, the better it tastes. It's actually better the next day than it is now. Any kind of sauce or stew or chili, soups, usually the next day it tastes better. But after an hour and a half, you can go ahead and eat this. And again, guys, taste test it. If it needs more of one thing or another, how you like it, season it to how you like it. But I'm going to give you guys a baseline for how I did this. Alright, so here's the final product. We got a ton of cheddar cheese in there. I'm going to mix this up, grab some nachos, and we're going to call this one done. Alright, finally, taste test. We got our bag of nachos here. Tortilla chips. These are the scoop kind. Let's get a nice scoop here, get some of that cheddar in there. Fantastic. Cannot go wrong with this recipe, guys. Summertime, throw it on chili dogs, rainy day, whatever.
Super simple, excellent chili recipe. Alright guys, make sure you leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Slap a like on the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.